Okay, welcome everyone to the Tuesday, January 30, 2024 meeting of Quesnel City Council. I'm Mayor Ron Paull. I will call the meeting to order and acknowledge that Councillor Rudenberg is joining us by Zoom tonight, and we do have another person on the call, and I'll get to that in one moment. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the LHTAKO DENE Nation. I'm going to be looking for a motion to approve the agenda, but before we do that, I just want to note that there are two late agenda items. I3, committee reports, will be the Accessibility Committee Chair and summary and draft terms of reference from Councillor Runge. And then M1 correspondence, this is a late item, LHTAKO Quesnel 2024 BC Winter Games updated parking request and map. And a late agenda item, committee report January 24 financial stability or sustainability and audit committee chair summary, Councillor Vic. And for you, Andre, we're going to move you up a little bit so that you don't have to sit here through the whole thing. And so we'll be calling you at that particular time in the meeting. So with that, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Moved Councillor Elliott, seconded Councillor McKelvey. All in favor? Carried. Now I'd like to get a motion to adopt the regular minutes of the council meeting held January 16, 2024. Councillor Goulet, Councillor Vic. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have no presentations. We have no delegations. We have no items arising from special closed. We have no unfinished business. Now we're going to go to committee reports, and this will be the December 9, 2024 Policy Bylaw Committee Chair Summary, Councillor Runge to report.
Good evening. How you guys doing today? Anyway, I'm taking it. You guys did take a glance at this slightly delayed report. So we had two topics that we covered on our Policy and Bylaw Committee meeting at that time. One was the proposed vapor product retailing zoning policy, which we actually voted on later in December. So I don't think I'm going to go over that. And the second one was our staff, city staff report templates. It was discussion and wording changes that we had with regards to the report so that our city templates would change slightly. And I think the big well, we'll go over the three things that we changed. So council policy, we're going to replace a word, I'm not sure if you guys looked at it, or spell out with indicate, so that the sentence will read, indicate any applicable council policy. If there's no directly applicable policy, we'll state that. The other two things that are kind of new on our reports are our climate impacts. So we'll change the title to read climate considerations. And outside consultation, we were going to add if applicable, so at the end of our description. So it would provide details of consultation with First Nations or Indigenous stakeholders, agencies, and other organizations if applicable. And I think we passed that other vapor product retail zoning policy already. So I think that's it for that report. It was a fairly short meeting, and that's it. That's all.
So do you want to go ahead with the January 30th meeting as well?
Sure.
At this point?
Yeah, so this meeting actually is the Accessibility Committee meeting update. It was a late agenda item because we actually wrapped it up last Tuesday, and as you guys recall, that evening went for quite some time. Anyway, so do you want it read to you, or are you guys going to look at it? The idea is that we looked at our terms of reference, and I do really want. I guess we should go through some of this stuff because we talked about revisions in our policy, but I don't think you've seen this policy before, so I'm going to just go right to the policy on page. Well, first off, on page 2, our next meeting isn't January 24th. It's to be decided still. That was the day of the original meeting, so that was just error in typing there. So what we came up with was our terms of reference, and I'm not sure, being that it's late, because we do want to, what we need, there's a few things that we need. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I will go through it.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's probably better because everybody's getting this like
for the
right
first
now,
time,
and they haven't had an opportunity to look at it.
I'm sorry, because for me, anyway. So we looked at our terms of reference, and the Accessibility Committee reviewed the draft terms of reference and directed staff to adjust to better communicate the priorities and objectives of the committee. So we had a number of changes. Revision of the terms of city within the document to community. Addition of facilities to the list of areas that were within the scope of the committee to better communicate safely, accessible, and accommodating. So there were wording questions. The addition of provincial and northern initiatives when listing ways to improve accessibility, and the addition of a committee contact with city staff who are appointed to the committee. Revisions to the meeting periods per year from only on an as-needed basis, but not less than once every 3 months, to quarterly and or on an as-needed basis. So, and also that the meeting minutes distribution will be to the committee members in a timely manner, and meeting details communicated to council by the chair as a summary report. The last bullet, which is actually kind of important because it goes for the 2024 year, that we allocate a budget for overall function and small projects for the committee, and it should be set per year, and a request to council will be made for the allocation of $5,000 from council initiative funds for the 2024 term, so we can get going with this committee and not have to wait till next year. We had lots of discussion, and we had a roundtable where we created a parking lot. I think you can read those parking lot things later. The big one here is the Accessibility Week promotion from May 25th, that we create some promotion for the May 25th to June 1st Accessibility Week. And then they had Community BC review, invisibility, access awareness, accessible signage review, closed captioned options to promote accessibility, enhanced accessibility in public washrooms, external grant and funding options, Spark BC, government funding access to privately owned businesses, additional forms of transportation for seniors, snow removal and access to laneways, lowered lighting options and awareness, and public service and emergency notification options. So as you can see, we have a really vibrant group there, and they have lots of, great ideas. So the recommendation, of course, is that the Accessibility Committee recommend to City Council that up to $5,000 be allocated from council initiatives to fund the Accessibility Committee to fund projects and initiatives within the 2024 term. It was carried unanimously by our committee, and it will hopefully come. I'm not sure if it comes today to us.
Or later.
All right. Nothing like giving me something halfway through reading a report. All right. Moving on. So, terms of reference on page 3, because we need you as a council to vote on this fairly quickly so we can get going. We're going to go over this today, and my apologies that it somehow didn't make it before Thursday, but we had our meeting, we had to get it okayed, and then we had to send it out to our committee members and get all the feedback for it, so it just must have missed our deadline there on Thursday. So the purpose, the City of Quesnel Accessibility Committee is a select committee established by Quesnel City Council to provide advice to council to ensure that the following goals from our Quesnel community occur. Buildings, sites, and facilities are to be safely accessible. The community is inclusive and supportive and is safely accessible and accommodating. Then we have the role of the committee. Specific roles of the committee shall include review and take recommendations to council and staff regarding accessibility issues related to community, transportation, buildings, and functions. Support council and staff in the development of a prioritized 5-year capital plan for accessibility improvements to sidewalks, trails, parking, and roads. Review accessibility plans of new city and community developments. Review and make recommendations to council regarding accessibility improvements related to existing community-owned infrastructure and programs. And review, make recommendations, and provide leadership for other projects and initiatives to improve accessibility in the community of Quesnel. Accessible parking awareness, work with merchants, BIAs, and the Chamber of Commerce to improve accessibility and promote accessibility awareness and accessibility-friendly projects. Oh, this is a lot of reading. We created our terms of reference. So our terms of reference to help develop an accessibility plan that is accessible to the community members and that outlines the activities the organization plans to do to identify, remove, and prevent barriers, monitor and report progress and achievement of actions identified in the city accessibility plan, and review the plan every 3 years. Develop partnerships and liaise with the province and accessibility agencies to improve accessibility outcomes for Quesnel. Those would include review and build on new provincial initiatives, or review and build on previous provincial and northern initiatives, such as Measuring Up the North for reference. Committee membership shall consist of 1 member of City Council appointed by the Mayor and 5 to 10 community members and members of the CRD and North Regional NRCC. Man, I'm just going to brain fart there, sorry. The goal is to source members from a broad sector of the community, including people with disabilities, business representatives, health representatives, Indigenous representatives, social wellness organizations, etc. In addition, the CRD will be invited to support a representative of the Northern Rural Caucus to the committee. City employees may be appointed to provide administrative support and policy guidance and support at the direction of the city manager. Community members shall be recruited from the community at large with an open call for nominations and shall be appointed by resolution of council. Efforts should be made to recruit members from organizations that are involved or have lived with accessibility issues. The appointment term shall be for 2 years, expiring December 31st. The length of the first one will vary just to make sure that it's consistent. Members of the committee shall serve without remuneration. Council may at any time remove any member of the committee, and any member of the committee may resign upon sending written notice to the chair of the committee and or appointed staff. Committee members who are absent for 3 or more consecutive meetings without leave of the chair will forfeit their appointments. In the event of a vacancy occurring during a regular term of office, the vacancy may be filled for the remainder of that term upon resolution of council. The committee may appoint subcommittees and task forces to deal with any matters coming within the mandate of the committee. Any subcommittee or task force so created will report to the committee. The committee chair, City Council representative shall serve as the chair of the committee. The committee may select a vice chair at its first meeting from its membership. The chair shall preside over all meetings and rule on points of order. In his or her absence, the vice chair shall assume the role of the chair. Our meetings shall meet quarterly and or as needed as determined by city staff in consultation with the committee chair. The committee shall be subject to Division 3, Part 4, open meetings of the British Columbia Community Charter, being Chapter 26 of the Statutes of British Columbia and the amendments thereto. Unless otherwise authorized by the Community Charter, all meetings will be held in open session, and minutes will be taken and copies will be provided to the committee and council in a timely manner. And then there's just some quorum things with regards to quorum do we want to read that? That's pretty close to ours. Sorry. So a majority of committee members shall constitute a quorum. All members of the committee, including the chair, may vote on every motion unless they have a conflict of interest and excuse themselves from the meeting. If the votes are equal for and against any motion, the motion is defeated, and meetings will be run in accordance with the City of Quesnel Procedure Bylaw 1560. In cases not provided for under the bylaw, the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Orders shall apply. And on the budget, routine operations and special initiatives of committee shall be funded by allocations from annual operations budget as approved by council from year to year. The committee may request changes to the level of funding provided. Requests from funding should clearly indicate all expenditures that the committee proposes for the upcoming fiscal year. Requests are to be submitted consistent with the timing of City Council budget process, except for this year. Budget requests should include evaluation of the previous year's accomplishments and budget details. And finally, staff support. The city manager may appoint up to 2 staff members to provide administrative support as needed to record minutes and prepare agendas for committee meetings. Staff may also be assigned to provide technical advice and support to the committee as required. The city manager may alter staff appointments to the committee at any time at their discretion. Staff are not voting members of the committee. And that, my friends, is it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Runge. Well done. Are we looking for a motion at this point to adopt the terms of reference?
I believe we were hoping for that, and I'm also...
There's 2, yeah.
Okay, so basically I guess, receive and adopt the terms of reference for the Accessibility Committee?
The council just approved the recommendation from Accessibility Committee, but there's a second recommendation.
So that can be built into the motion?
There's a second
I'm sorry,
recommendation.
just a minute. I see you, Councillor Rudenberg. Just one moment. So that can be built into the resolution?
I don't understand.
Well, to accept the minutes and also approve the terms of reference.
We don't need to receive the
Okay, so just
chair summary.
to approve the terms of reference?
That's right, and the second recommendation.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Councillor Rudenberg for this right now. Are you just seconding? Okay, thank you.
No. I have a question for Councillor Runge, please. So the role of the committee you had here, review and make recommendations to council regarding accessibility improvements related to existing community-owned infrastructure and programs. We know a lot of our infrastructure, especially in regards to recreation, is a kind of a co-owned piece. So does there need to be something put in there in regards to the joint planning process when we talk about some of our recreation facilities and the need for improved accessibility? Because it does have budget implications for joint planning, right?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Rudenberg. The answer was actually no, because they would bring it to us first, and if we decided as a council we were going to bring it to the joint planning, then we would bring it there. And also on the committee, we do have a joint planning representation, and they would also be aware of what's going on.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so do we have a motion on the floor? We do not.
Yeah, I'd like to put a motion on the floor.
Do I have a seconder?
So just for the terms of reference.
Sorry, yes, Councillor Rudenberg seconded. Okay, so do we have any further discussion on the resolution that is on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Runge.
I do have another one, please.
Oh, you got another one?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So the first one was just for that we accept the terms of reference, just for the record.
Okay, keep going.
And you're rushing me. Whew.
Oh, I'm not. No, take your time. But keep going.
Thank you. So the second recommendation, please, is that that we be allocated $5,000 from council initiatives to fund the Accessibility Committee projects and initiatives for the 2024 term. And we may not use all of it, but we just wanted to have a starting amount and then would adjust into the future.
Okay, so I'm sorry, go ahead, Councillor Scott, or Councillor Elliott.
Yeah, I'll move it.
Oh, moving it.
For second, whatever.
And seconding, Councillor Runge. Discussion. Councillor Vic.
Do we just want to add this to supplementals because we're in the middle of this right now with our budget? Or, because that seems to be the process, right? Director Paull?
It's up to council. You can either add it on to the budget and add 5,000, or you can just take it out of the budget that's there for council initiatives.
I think that Councillor Runge said that it was to take it out of council initiatives. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And
Yeah.
so we should get a better gauge on what's required, and then if it has to be moved to something else, it would be. But just for the first one to get it going, to say, sorry, our motion to move it forward and get this committee going, that we get going with it, with this amount of money.
Okay, so we're all clear on that? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, thank you, Councillor Runge. That concludes your portion, right? Thank you. Now I will go to the next item on the agenda, and this is my report for the Public Safety and Policing Committee meeting that was held on January 30. And the purpose of this report is to provide council with highlights from the Public Safety and Policing, acronym PSP, committee meeting held on January the 9th. I'm not going to go through in all of the detail, but in summary, the Public Safety and Policing Committee discussed the heat plan and a warming shelter that was discussed at the November 2, 2023 emergency management meeting. It was discussed that the emergency warming shelter would probably occur this winter season, and indeed it did there for a time during that cold snap. The Voyant Alert, this is an emergency notification system that has been adopted by the regional district, so therefore the city falls into that. Voyant is a Canadian company with data storage located in Canada, and any users who have signed up to the Everbridge system will be ported automatically to Voyant. The Caribou Regional District and its member municipalities are all clients of the new system. Downtown Business Improvement Area, BIA meeting. We had a meeting with the BIA, and Director Turner reviewed the outcomes of the community safety meeting from Bylaw Department perspective. Downtown merchants were encouraged to have more contact with policing and with Bylaw. The city will have more Bylaw presence downtown near quitting time for business to make employees feel more secure when walking to their vehicles. Staff will review the Report It and panhandling pamphlets before reprinting them for the benefit of the business clientele. Staff Sergeant Richard Wassine reviewed some of the changes to the RCMP procedures, which included increased police patrols in the late afternoon when business is closed. So that concludes my report. If I could just have a motion to accept that. Yep, please. Okay, Councillor McKelvey, Councillor Vic is moving and seconding. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the next one falls to me as well, and this is the Caribou Regional Board, or the Caribou Regional District Board highlights from January 12. At first, we had our meeting with the Caribou Chilcotin Regional Hospital District. And
Excuse me, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
We have a late item, I-4.
Oh, you are indeed right. I-4 is from Councillor Vic, and that is the Financial Sustainability and Audit Committee FSAC meeting report for January 24. I'm sorry about that.
No problem, Mr. Mayor. You want to roll there. I didn't want to interrupt you.
You'll hear it all again.
So I apologize for the late report. This meeting was not even a week ago. But one of the items is quite important. I wanted to bring it forward as quickly as possible, and I'm away at the next council meeting, so that would make this almost a month old by the time it would come. So thank you for humoring me on this. So the purpose of this report is to provide highlights from our meeting that we held on the 24th. One of the pressing ones was the CN rail crossing at Rome Avenue. We received a pre-construction notice from CN Rail for work to be done on the Rome Avenue crossing to improve safety. As I learned, and I think other committee members learned, there's a certificate under the Railway Act where the city is responsible for costs of maintaining railway crossings. And as it happens, CN is the entity which makes those repairs. So in a sense, we're paying CN to maintain those crossings. The project in question, to be completed by CN, will require full road closure as track and other components are replaced at the crossing and the approach. An adjustment to our capital budget for 2024 can be made with funds coming from the Capital Reinvestment Reserve. And we did also discuss that we have two other crossings within city boundaries, one at River Park Road and one at Front Street, which turns into Davie Street. When we close the loop due to flooding every season, we end up going across those railway tracks as well. So those two crossings are potentially could be affected by this same certificate. At any rate, staff are going to keep us apprised of plans to make improvements or safety improvements to those crossings, because there will be a capital budget implication for both of those, should they need to be addressed. For this particular crossing, the bill is going to be about $100,000, and there'll be a recommendation later on in this report on that. Next, we moved into our operating budget. Again, we're right in the thick of it now. We reviewed a more detailed spreadsheets, charts of each department. We had the opportunity to ask questions to the directors that were in the room. The operating budget will come back to finance at the next meeting for one more pass, and then it will go to council on the 27th of February, which is a special meeting where council will get to ask questions. And more importantly, or as importantly, it's also open to the public to ask questions. So I'm hoping we get some interest in the community to come out and ask questions about our budget. Then we moved to an update from finance, and they're very busy getting ready for utility invoices, and I think they're imminent. Is that correct, Dr. Bolton?
Hoping to print in the next couple days.
Wow. And there's a pool set up for who's going to pay first, just like last year?
It's not who, it's what time the first person comes in.
Okay. So to the recommendation from the first item, I'll move that the finance, I'll move the recommendation to amend the 2024 capital plan to include $103,000 for the Rome Avenue crossing funded from capital reinvestment reserve.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Elliott is seconding. Councillor Runge.
Yeah, I know this isn't really the place for any discussion, but not having access to that certificate, is there any option in there to say to CN, hey, can you give us a little bit more heads up so that we can put it into our budget discussions prior? Because for a city our size, this amount, although maybe tiny for Vancouver or something like that, actually has significant influence, ramifications to our taxpayer.
So just to be clear, we do have a copy of that certificate, so we have all the backup that goes with this that shows that we are. This is an issue. CN's going through their process. This is happening to lots of municipalities. We do plan on letting them know that, we'd appreciate more of a heads up, but at this point, I'm not sure that that would do anything to delay this project because they've got their planning out. So at this point, I think we've got a budget for it, but yes, we agree that we get a notice that's happening this year. It's not really a lot of time to plan around it.
Yeah, so I wasn't talking about this year. I just think maybe a letter from our council to them, just saying, hey, you know what, just give us a heads up a little earlier if you could. That'd be wonderful.
We're doing it from a staff level. I don't know if you want to go as far, or that's fine. Yeah.
I think it should come from a council level, actually. I think it's really quite important that, because we're trying to make ends meet everywhere, and if we can just say, here, just help us out here too. We know these things have to happen, and that's what we've agreed to. But let's if we can find out earlier, it'd be much nicer for us.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Runge. If I'd have had this on my radar when I was up at the BC Natural Resources Forums, CN was there with a double booth. They got lots of money, and I would have mentioned this to them then, but I'm sure that we'll be seeing them at NCLGA and or UBCM, so thank you for that. So we do have...
Mayor,
go ahead.
That was a resolution, I need a seconder.
Yeah, I'm looking for a seconder. So, oh no, I got a seconder, Councillor.
We have a motion first.
But were you making a recommendation for a letter from council? Yeah.
Sorry, I believe we have a motion on the floor just to accept this recommendation, and then the second one will be, sorry.
Yeah, so the recommendation for the 103,000 is moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Sorry, point of order then, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess now that motion would come forward. So that council endorses a letter to CN, just asking him to give us a heads, you can do the word and give us a heads up a little earlier.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Vic. Any discussion? Councillor Vic.
Yeah, I'll second that and support that. But FSAC has now sort of injected themselves into this discussion, and there is another crossing which could have financial implications for us. So FSAC's going to be privy to costs for the next one that should come, and I'll report that out immediately. But if you'd like to send a note off to CN, reiterating the hardships that short notice like this causes, then I'm okay with that too.
I'm sure that CN, that Quesnel will not be the only municipality that CN is hearing from. So we're done on that one? You're okay? I do have a question, though, Councillor Runge, you mentioned, no, Councillor Vic, you mentioned River Park Road, and I'm thinking that River Park Road, the crossing at River Park Road is not in the city. Am I correct? I
don't believe we spoke about that one.
I mentioned it in my preamble there, but is that not in the city limits?
It was Carey Avenue and what? Yeah, and I can't recall. Yeah, that one is for sure. Yeah, and I can't recall the other one we spoke about.
Well, Rome Avenue and Carey.
And the Front Street Davie underpass one. Yeah, so I misspoke then. I'm sorry. I looked at a map and I thought it was in there.
Okay, so now I guess now that I've...
Mayor, sorry. I apologize. I do have a mover seconder. I don't have a vote on that last motion.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll go for a vote on that last one again. I thought we did, but all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we're going to go to for the second time, to the Caribou Regional District Board highlights, and I was mentioning that the Caribou-Chilcotin Regional Hospital had their election for chair and vice chair, and Director Al Richmond, Area G, and Director Mary Schustrom, Area A, were re-elected by acclamation as chair and vice chair of the Caribou Regional Hospital District. And under development procedures and fees, there was quite a good discussion about the CRD is updating its development procedures and fees bylaw to reflect recent changes to provincial law on for how local governments can plan for housing developments. There was a lot of other stuff there that dealt with interior health, and so it's in your agenda package, and so if anyone has any questions, I'd be pleased to answer them. Not hearing any, and we don't need a motion to accept that. That's just for council information only. Okay, now I'm going to go to city staff reports and admin report, development permit 2023-67-900-855 Rita Road, form and character review of a new commercial development, Popeye's Chicken, Director Turner to report.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this purpose of this report is to review form and character for the proposed alteration and drive-through design of a new Popeyes restaurant. The applicant is proposing to convert the existing Andre's Car Wash into a drive-through Popeyes restaurant. The existing car wash site was designed for queuing of vehicles, which will allow a transition to the drive-through that will be satisfactory. The existing building facade will be updated to meet the Popeyes branding. Signage will also be reviewed under a separate signage permit with the Popeyes Corporation. A couple of things to note in here. I'm not going to go through in huge detail all of the analysis for the DP. It should be noted, however, that it was discovered that a covenant exists on the property that restricts drive-through operations. This would have been put on back in 2016 when we did a rezoning for this for the Andre's development through that rezoning process. There's been additional developments that have happened up there through the time, and we are currently working with the the Ministry of Highways to figure out how we can amend that covenant to allow this restaurant. And I think they're going to be favorable. As you can see in the referrals, they were accepting of this proposal. They just did not have the knowledge of the covenant. So I think it's going to be just a paperwork issue on how we can get that done. And we've already begun working with that, and Andre as well as advised. And so what we're looking to do is just go forward with that as a subject to this recommendation. Again, there's no concerns with parking. There's no concerns with circulation on the site. Again, as it was designed for the car wash, and this site has always had significant parking and continues to have sufficient parking with this new development. There is some parking proposed in the rear, and you'll see that in the recommendation we have to check an access way to the back. We'll have some conversations with the applicant on how to do that. That parking in the rear is expected to be just for staff, and so we'll talk about ways to restrict the public from that area because the access way isn't sufficient for public two-way driving. The recommendation, therefore, is that Council approve DP 2023-67 for the conversion of car wash to drive-through restaurant on Lot C, District Lot 6679, Caribou District Plan PGP 46827, subject to obtaining approval from the Ministry of Transportation to rescind or modify the existing restrictive covenant to allow the drive-through restaurant on the site. Or secondly, removing parking spaces to the rear of the building or confirming adequate aisle space to accommodate a two-way access egress from the parking area. And 3, obtaining a separate sign permit for the new commercial signage.
Okay, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Runge. Anybody got any questions? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Andre. It's unfortunate that the car wash didn't work out, but I appreciate the continued investment in Quesnel, and I'm sure this one's going to fly. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Andre. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up there.
Yeah, no, I hopefully you can hear me now. Yeah, no, we certainly gave it a good run. I think just with the cold winters and then obviously down the street, you've approved a tunnel car wash going through there. We actually we did a little mall in Savin Arm last year. We put a Popeye's chicken in, and the community absolutely loved it, and it's been super successful. And it was actually, people were actually more excited about Popeye's chicken opening than Andre's, if you can believe it. But it was one of those things that they've been very successful. This is the first one in the north. We were able to convince them to go ahead and do this one ahead of Williams Lake and Prince George. I think it would be a great benefit to the community as far as just another, restaurant that's on the highway. As far as traffic, I mean, to be honest with you, even though the car wash wasn't crazy successful, the traffic on the drive-through, a single drive-through Popeye's chicken is going to be nowhere near as busy. It's a busy sunny day with 4 car wash bays. So I think the traffic issue is not an issue. I know Tanya and I were both surprised when we saw that coming on. That must have been something she made me do in 2016 because I totally forgot about it. But yeah, hopefully we can get that removed, and it'll be a great asset for the community.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. Councillor Elliott took the words right out of my mouth. We genuinely do appreciate the investment, your ongoing investment in the community. And driving around the province of British Columbia, we're not the only ones benefiting from Andre's developments. I see your signs up all over the place, so way to go. Thank you.
We're trying.
Yeah. Okay, so we have them. Did we vote on that motion? Okay, so all in favor? Opposed? No, I'm sure nobody be opposed to this one, so thank you very much. It's passed. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you very much. Am I good to leave now?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now I can go to K2, Admin Report 40/24. 2222 Maple Drive, commonly known as Maple Park Mall, remedial action. I'm going to Director Turner to report.
Thank you, Council. This report is really to provide Council with a long-needed update on Maple Park Mall. As Council is aware, this mall has been been a concern for a number of community members for some time. In 2018, after several years of the mall having reduced tenancies, there was a change of ownership, and I think there was intended a change in direction with the mall, but unfortunately that didn't come to fruition. And ever since, the mall has been deteriorating in various stages. Staff are receiving complaints regarding the mall on a regular basis. We have we've been doing a number of activities over the years to try and engage with current owners, with prospective owners, with mortgage holders, with anybody we can to try and get this mall in good condition and an asset again to the city. But we have not been successful. We are advised that the owner, or would be the signing authority for the corporation, is not reachable. They believe out of country, and we have not been able to find anyone that can locate them to date, and that includes the mortgage holder. We've been researching our options of what we can do here. We have determined that probably the only way forward is a remedial action order on this property. It's a bit tricky because we don't have an owner, and we'll have to work through legal counsel to figure out the best route forward. And I'm really bringing this to council. Well, we're going to bring something again really quickly, probably to the next council meeting, about the actual steps that we need to take to move forward on a remedial action order. I have reached out to a company to determine what the cost is going to be. As you guys are well aware, once we do a remedial action order, if the property owner does not do those actions themselves, the city can do those actions, and then we will assume the costs. We'll be able to charge them back on taxation, but we will assume those costs to begin with for sure. The quote that I have is about $30,000 to completely seal up the building. And I'm having Fire Chief Ron Rickard also work with me and the prospective company just to make sure that we will have a properly sealed building. One of the biggest issues is going to be making sure that it is sealed and that it remains sealed. As we go forward, there's going to have to be a number of other actions to make sure that as we're sealing the building, that we're also making sure that people that may have been accessing the building are safe. The recommendation, therefore, is that council receives for information the Director of Development Services report on 222 Maple Drive, and that council directs staff to begin process of a remedial action order on the property to fully secure and provide security if required.
Okay, I've got Councillor Elliott moving to get this underway. Councillor Vick seconding. Any discussion, comment? Councillor Vick and then Councillor Runge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Turner, or I guess it's Director Bolton, I guess first, sorry, they're up to date on paying their taxes for the last year?
No, they're 2 years behind. So if they miss this year again, they'll go. The last few years they've gone to tax sale every year, but they just come and pay at the last minute. So
somebody's coming up and paying the bill at the last moment? Yeah,
we're all email a variety of people to find something.
Thank you, and I can confirm it's the mortgage holder that has been doing that.
Okay, anyone? Oh, Councillor Runge.
Yes, thank you. So 2 questions, I believe. So that $30,000 would be to seal off the building. Would there be any additional security costs that we'd have to continue on throughout the year?
Thank you. I'm going to have continued conversations on that matter. I personally believe we'd have to have at least some periodic security just to be checking to make sure all of those access points aren't being breached. That would be my recommendation. But in talking with Inspector, our Fire Chief Rickard, and I have to have some further conversations with the company that's given me the quote, they seem to feel like this is going to be pretty well sealed up.
Yes, because I'm hoping if it's pretty well sealed up that we might be able to have bylaw or fire go by every so often without too much additional cost to the city. My second question is, isn't the mortgage holder part owner of this property, but through having a mortgage, aren't they a little bit liable there? Because they could put a squeeze on the person a little bit too. They have no, because as a mortgage holder, don't you have rights to the property?
If you read the if you read the chronology here, you can see how difficult that is. As you may recall, a previous mortgage holder, we were going through quite a process and try to obtain the mall. That mortgage holder was to try and resell it because it also was not being properly cared for at that time. Unfortunately, the current mortgage holder bought it out from the previous mortgage holder, but there's they just hold the mortgage, and they don't have rights. In fact, they have to do a lot of court fighting to get those rights. It's quite an extensive process.
Yeah, because I would have just thought that the mortgage had a lien on the property, therefore that they've got a little bit of clout because they should have that connection to the person wherever he's located right now, because ultimately they have some sort of bank information from him. I don't know. I just feel that there's. I'd be curious if there were other ways of possibly looking at this, so that so we could expedite this a little bit to, to start to get things going.
Thank you. As you can see, I've been working on this for a very long time, and there has been a lot of conversations with legal. So we're not doing this blindly.
Yeah, thank you, and I don't envy you one little bit on this one. I'm going to go to Councillor McKelvey now.
Thank you for this report, Tanya, because I've had a lot of people contacting me personally about the problems that we're seeing up at the mall. I guess my question is, there was an appraisal done, and I don't know if you know what that appraisal came in at 2 years ago, and that was before all the vandalism took place. And I guess my question is, what is that building worth now? I mean, for somebody to even, I mean, it's kind of a demolish.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor McKelvey. No, we were not privy to the appraisal, so we don't have that value. Yeah, it would be interesting, but at this point, the person that is most invested definitely is the mortgage holder, but they only have certain rights on the property as well. So.
Okay, thank you. So do we have a mover and a seconder? But we need a vote. And this is basically to kick the thing into gear. So, Councillor, did you want to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Councillor Goulet.
Thanks. And I'm looking at, it says that the city could be at risk, so 30,000, we could be at risk for more too, depending on, if there's vandalism up there, if everything that goes on up there. The city, if they don't do their taxes, the city would just be responsible for just repairing everything and keep the bill going past money. I don't know how that works.
The risk is a bit more. The problem is if this actually goes to tax sale, it's very unlikely it would be bid on. It's hard to know, right? So, and then the city would be responsible for the outstanding property taxes, the 30,000 in remediation, and then suddenly be the owner of the property and have to deal with. I mean, I think we want to do everything we can to avoid that. Yeah.
Councillor Vick. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Scott Elliott.
Thank you. To Director Turner, first of all, thank you very much for the hard work on this. It is untenable, and like Councillor McKelvey says, many people are talking to me. I drive past it every day. It's absolutely atrocious. So just to the utilities being turned off, the only question I have is just on turning the water off in relation to fire suppression if something terrible was to happen in there.
Thank you. Yes, and of course, the Fire Chief Rickert was well involved in the whole process and discussion of turning the water off. There is substantial concerns about turning water off to a building, and as you'll see if you look through the chronology again, there's about 5 or 6 different times throughout the years that we've had to have those discussions, and magically things would happen, and you know, then we'd get to a point where we didn't have to turn it off. You went back and forth a number of times. This time there was nothing. No other utilities were. We got clarification that they were all off gas, hydro, everything. The only resolve is to turn off the water, or else you're just going to have water breaks. You know, there is concerns. We did look at the fire hydrants in the area, and the fire chief felt secure in that we had good enough fire flows if something was to happen there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, and Councillor Vic.
For Director Bolton, should there be a charge of $30,000 for remediation, does that $30,000 charge go to the most delinquent tax bill, or is it bumped up 2 years so that $30,000 isn't actually paid immediately?
No, the way it actually happens is that we invoice it in the current year, and then the following year it drops into property taxes, but it would just be in arrears taxes. We can't. It goes into the previous year's taxes. So basically, with the taxes of the year when the work is done, it's just the way it works. Yeah. So
would we be behind for that? We have to wait.
It would be a couple years. Okay. Yeah, assuming they pay their taxes.
All right. And the second question I have for Director Turner, and Councillor Runge alluded to periodic inspections by bylaw or our fire station folks. Could we not trigger our nuisance bylaw in this case for having to monitor that property and then add that to the bill?
I think we definitely can, but I think that's too lightweight at this point. I think we need to talk about, you know, making them secure this building. I think that's the main goal that we have here. The nuisance bylaw, in terms of number of attendances, is that what you're talking about? When we put the provisions in there, number of attendances, we can look at that and do some fines on that. But I think it's kind of moot. I think we'll end up paying those too. Yeah, we could.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor, and I don't see any more hands up for comments or questions. So all in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you. Go ahead.
And I just want to be clear, like we're still working with, there's still some real uncertainty about how we can take these measures, and that's why we're working with legal counsel. That's why it has not been easy to get this to you guys further earlier. We just feel like we need to be doing anything right now to make to get this moving forward. As you can see, as I was writing this report, I was talking to Bylaw, who was addressing some people that were breaking into the building at that time. So it's kind of increasingly becoming problematic, and that's what we will try and show.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Councillor Runge for one last comment.
It's actually a question to Director Bolton. So, should nothing happen and we have to seal the building, what funds would that come out of? And would it be in, tax-wise, you know? So we have a delinquent properties budget. That's where it would come from. But we'd invoice, so it would actually show that we have income coming, but... Thank you.
Okay, so are we done with that? We can go on to item number K3, Admin Report 37/24, UBCM Emergency Operations Center and the Emergency Support Services Grant Applications. Coordinator Carpenter report.
Thank you, Mayor. This report is to gain Council's approval to submit applications to the funding streams under the Union of BC Municipalities Community Emergency Preparedness Fund. Emergency Equipment and Training for Emergency Support Services and Emergency Operations Center is eligible for funding through the UBC Community Emergency Preparedness Fund under the streams of Emergency Support Services Equipment and Training and Emergency Operations Centers Equipment and Training. Recommendation is that Quesnel City Council support support the application to the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for $5,589 for the emergency support services, equipment, and training. And second recommendation that Quesnel City Council support the application to UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for up to $30,000 for the Emergency Operations Center's equipment and training.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Rudenberg. Okay, so
just moving the motion.
yeah, and just remember that we need two motions. I presume that we need two motions because we have two recommendations. So Councillor Rudenberg, Councillor Runge seconding. Okay. Any discussion on resolution number 1? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 2. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Runge. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, Councillor Runge.
My discussion was simple. I thought it would be Councillor Rudenberg that put her hand up again. Thank you.
I'm sorry about that. I was looking to the side rather than straight ahead. Okay, so we got that sorted out. So now I'll call for question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, the next one is Admin Report 39/24, Bylaw number 1964, and this is the City of Quesnel Zoning Amendment Bylaw 1954-2024 Vape Store at 118 Juniper Road. Rescind first and second readings. Director Turner to report.
Thank you, Mayor. This, as you will recall, came to the January 16th meeting. It was determined after that meeting that there was an error in the process in that when we waive public hearings, apparently the notice is required to be delivered earlier than required when we do a public hearing, so it's required to be put out before first reading. We're just going to rescind the bylaws and reread following up in February 20th. Once we do the notice, we're putting the notices out now. This will basically delay the decision for one meeting, but we don't determine that it's going to be a large issue. We've had a conversation with the proponent. This is, again, this report is really just about correcting that default in the notice process. It is recommended that Council rescinds first and second reading to the City of Quesnel Zoning Bylaw, Amendment Bylaw number 1954-2024 to permit the use of vapor retail store on Lot B, District Lot 3948, Caribou District Plan 18315, except Plan 3571.
Okay, mover, Councillor Elliott, or Councillor McKelvey, Councillor Elliott. I saw both hands. So on this side of the table, anyone else? Any comment, question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So now we go to late item, and that is this is. Oh, do we have anything? We don't have anything from the council information package. Okay, now we go to correspondence, and this is a late agenda attachment. LHTAKO Quesnel 2024 BC Winter Games updated parking requirements. Ms. Hartley.
We received a letter dated January 29th from the BC Winter Games Committee. They'd like to update the parking request that we had previously approved. The purpose of this amendment is to request permission from the City of Quesnel to add the following locations: RV parking spaces at the Visitor Centre and main parking between West Fraser Centre and the rink number 2 to the parking lot restriction road closure. We're also asking the restriction closures to reflect the dates indicated in this amendment. So for clarity, the closures include keep the closure restriction in place on Vaughan Street from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. on Thursday evening for the game's opening ceremony. Keep the closure restriction in place on parking lots north and south of Legion for the duration of the games. Keep the closure restriction in place for the alley between rink number 2 and the Legion. Add the closure restriction of the RV park spaces at the Visitor Centre for BC Games buses. This will help alleviate congestion in the alley behind the Legion and restrict access to the West Fraser Centre parking lot on Thursday, February 22nd to those volunteers and performers who will be part of the opening ceremony. Okay, there you have it. Do we have a motion on that?
Carrie, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that our Manager of Tourism and Economic Development created a map, which is the next page, which I think much more clearly outlines all the parking closures and shows the date starting on Wednesday, all the red lots close. It makes it a lot cleaner and easier to see.
Go ahead, Councillor Runge.
Could I have a comment to the map? So when we look at 40, open all the time, wouldn't that be better to have it closed on the February 22nd at least, if not totally? It's right across. It's going to cause all sorts of traffic up and down that alley because it's open. Just include that in the closed.
The road is closed during the time, so people won't be able to get in and out.
I'm thinking the alley. They'll make a way through the parking lot through the side there by city, off of I think it's St. Laurent. They'll come down and they'll pull into 40 because it's open. But wouldn't that just be easier just to have it closed when the road is closed, or make it yellow on just the 22nd? Therefore, that whole area gets covered for you.
The BC Winter Games did not request that. They didn't feel that they needed that lot. They felt that that lot could be remained open, and whoever parks there, parks there. Yeah.
Councillor Vic.
It seems reasonable. This is going to be particularly cause a lot of burden on the system, but that's on I guess adjacent to 41 and 40, closed February 2nd. There's like 6 businesses right there. Have we consulted with those businesses to make sure they can make accommodation?
The Director of Transportation, Sylvain Gauthier, has said that he will go door to door and let them know.
Okay, go ahead.
No, that's an interesting point. So that has not been done prior to this. So it's coming afterwards.
Just to point out to council, you already approved that road closure?
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
So maybe that green one is perfect.
Yeah. So the additions are just really the addition of Wednesday to all the red areas, the addition of the West Fraser Centre parking lot being closed on the Thursday, and then the RV parking at the Tourism Centre.
I can't hear anybody right now, just saying.
She just wants to hear you.
There,
I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Okay. So bylaw number 1954 has already been dealt with previously in the meeting, right? So we're good to go on that. Now we go into, we don't have any new business information and question period. No changes to upcoming meeting schedules, no changes to committee appointments, announcements and events. Anyone? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if anybody else is like me and shocked that Barkerville Brewing has been open for 10 years. It just seems like a couple of years ago that they opened, but it's been a tremendous asset to this community. And they are having their 10th anniversary party on February 3rd. There's going to be cake. It's going to be open all day. Cake at 5, and then yours truly is going to be DJing from 6 till 9. So everybody's invited. Come on down, celebrate 10 years of Barkerville Brewing.
Wow, 10 years. Who'd have thunk? Anyone else? Before we close, I just want to note that for the Amata Transition House Society, I will be walking in their longest night event on, I think it's February the 17th. I have circulated a pledge sheet, and this is not about me. I mean, I will be walking that night. But I appreciate council's support to pledge, and also I think through HR, through Human Resources with the city, we've also put the call out to any employees that might wish to participate. So really, this is a city team, not just a mayor's team. So I appreciate your help on this. It's called the Coldest Night of the Year, and the proceeds go to help Indigenous women and children at Amata House. And there's a Facebook page, and it's called, the hashtag is CNOY, which is Coldest Night of the Year 24. So if you want further details, you can get it from that Facebook page. So thank you for your support on that. If there's no further business for the good of council, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Vic. Thank you, everyone. I don't think we need to vote on that one.